Hello, Grace City family and friends. Let me be the first to say to you good afternoon on this midday Wednesday, and welcome to Wednesday Word, where we seek every week to bring you a word of wit or wisdom, or frankly, whatever the Spirit might bring about. We have great guests. We have great words to share and discuss with each other. And this week, I'm very excited because this week I'm calling it Education Week. And we're talking this week throughout all the various platforms and things going on at Grace City Online Church. We're talking about kids and collaboration and students and teachers and all of what it takes to reinvent education in this time. So this week we are going to talk about education in the time of COVID, and I am particularly excited about our guest because in just a few minutes I will introduce you to the principal of Digital Harbor High School, Ms. Taiisha Swinton-Buck. And Ms. Swinton-Buck, she brings a wealth of experience. She comes to Baltimore from New Jersey. She's been a longtime educator with a master's in educational leadership. She's a doctoral candidate in educational leadership. She has worked at Digital Harbor to improve so many different metrics and culture of the school. And she's going to be a phenomenal person to discuss what's going on to reinvent education in Baltimore City and all the things that it might take to collaborate and be partners with as a church that meets in a school. So if you will do me the honor of staying tuned for just a minute, I'll be right back, and joining me on the screen will be Principal Swinton-Buck of Digital Harbor High School. Can't wait to see you, can't wait to have this conversation. Well, Grace City family, it is a pleasure to come right back as promised. And we are here today for Wednesday Word with wit, wisdom, and whatever. And I'm so glad to have our guest today, the principal of Digital Harbor High School, Taiisha Swinton-Buck. And Taiisha, thank you so much for coming on as our guest today on Wednesday Word. You, your school, your staff, your students are all dear to our hearts at Grace City. So we want to just give you our gratitude for coming on and joining us today.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I am truly honored. When I received the invitation, I was like, yes, I'm very excited. So thank you. I'm happy to be here and to share, my thoughts and experiences with all of you.
Well, that's awesome. And we're going to get through a lot of things. There's so much to talk about in education. It's at Grace City this week. It's sort of education week for us, and everything about kids and teachers, we're on it. I'm married to a teacher, so I know in the time of COVID that we're all in, that this is a particularly difficult time, and teachers, staff, they're working really hard. Students are working hard. So we'll get into that. But you are a student and you're working hard. You're a doctoral candidate at Drexel University in educational leadership. How's that going for you?
It is going, but I'll be honest, like it is the struggle is what I call it. But prayerfully, I hope to defend in the fall. And, right now it's just a lot of moving pieces, and my organization has to be tight and focus. And, with COVID, it's like all of these other things that are changing and shifting in my work life. And so I'm trying to keep everything together. But yes, it is something that I have been working on since 2016, and I'm hoping to defend this year. I'm excited about it. I think that my research will really speak to the work that I have led as an educator, and just looking at change agency among teachers and their development. And so that's something that's near and dear to my heart, and I'm excited about contributing to that work.
That's awesome. So that is your dissertation focus, is change agency among teachers?
Yes.
That's great.
The focus on social justice and equity.
That's awesome. Well, I'll look forward to reading that one day. That'd be great. And listen, I know, and a lot of our folks at Grace City know what it's like to hold down a job that is busy and full, and then be doing this last year of a dissertation at the same time. So we're gonna keep you in our prayers as
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, we're very, very proud of you. Well, Taiisha, tell us the current state of things in education. Start just right at your own school at Digital Harbor, because we love Digital Harbor. We're so grateful that you are our hosts for Sunday worship, and we look forward to getting back there. But how are things going at Digital Harbor in the time of COVID?
So in the time of COVID, like Digital Harbor is still rocking it out. And I'm very proud of the work that we've done this school year. Of course, I'm a little disappointed that COVID came in and kind of put us to a halt in March. But we really set a strong foundation in September with technology integration and using some of the tools that we ended up, being forced to use currently. And so our teachers were on the ball once COVID hit and they had to transition to Google Classroom and, this virtual platform. And so I'm excited about that because the transition really began in September when I came in and I had to focus on technology and using Google. And like as a school, we transitioned everything to basically a virtual platform. And so when we transitioned when COVID came and we had to close school, it was an easy transition for us.
Wow.
As far as the technology aspect. And so we ended up, leveraging our teachers who had the expertise, who were already in Google Classroom. Some of our students were already in Google Classroom. And so that wasn't new, right? The new was the social aspect and missing each other and connecting with each other. And so we've struggled with that. But as far as the technology aspect, I think that we really led the way, and I'm really proud about that. And I know that we struggled in September with it because I was new. Some of the technology was new, and so a lot of people were like, what's going on? But then come March, everyone's like, oh, this is a piece of cake. I know this. So that was exciting. We have two goals for our virtual learning right now, and that is one, to stay connected with our students and families, and two, to make sure that there's continuity of learning. But as soon as the closure was announced, I really communicated to my staff and families that we are going to push through, right? This is a challenge that we're facing together. We're going to lead with grace. We're going to be patient and flexible with each other. And we're going to stay connected and make sure that we all stay well, like mentally and socially well, because I know that like sitting in the house or, not being able to interact with my students and families, that's a big difference. Like I thrive off of that energy, and for it to just come to a halt was devastating to myself and to others. And I know that Digital Harbor is a lifeline for some of our students, and so our goal has just to been to stay connected with our students and make sure that we're affirming them daily, making sure that we're encouraging them, and making sure that, they know that we care and we're here for them, even though we're not physically in the same space.
Leading with grace, affirming daily, these things really stand out about your character and what you bring to the culture of Digital Harbor. What's your impression, as you talk to your faculty about how their students and families are staying engaged day to day in terms of the attendance online, things like that?
Mm-hmm. So we track our attendance data pretty aggressively because we want to know, what students we have high engagement with, those students that we haven't been able to engage with. And so we are pretty close to where we were when we were face-to-face school as far as our numbers. And that's something that we're proud of. But we also recognize that our students are not engaging with the work in the same way that they had in face-to-face, right? And so we recognize that our students are working late nights. And so not all of them are able to get up at 9 a.m. and check into class. Some of them are working to support their families, which I know is understandable. And, to me, I was like, wow, some of my kids are like essential workers now because of the need and because of the support that they have to give to their families. And so we have been really flexible with how we support them in continuity of their learning, because we recognize that there's other, challenges that they face at home. We're in a global crisis. And so I recognize that, to act 1, scene 2 of Romeo and Juliet may not be the biggest priority at that moment. And I'm okay with that. As an educator, and some people might cringe, but I am okay with that, because I recognize that I am serving. When my kids are not robots, they are human beings, and so they have wants, needs, and desires. And if their needs are not met at the very foundation, then to be or not to be will not even be a focus.
No, I do know, and that is well said. And I love the metaphor of using Romeo and Juliet. Uh, and I'm married to a kindergarten teacher, but I hear her talk about what is truly necessary for these kids now in terms of their love for learning and making this happen in their homes. So I really appreciate those words. And I want to come back to that, but go a little more global and tell us what's going on in Baltimore City schools and just the state of things in Baltimore City, and give us a word about that.
Yep. So, as a principal at Digital Harbor, I know my work, right? But I can tell you that the leadership within Baltimore City has been super graceful, and like I'm able to lead in this way with my staff and students because of the support that I receive from my network and the district leadership. And so we have, our meetings and check-ins, and we're able to talk and provide feedback and, just think about how we're going to make progress during this time. But it feels good to be able to lead in this way and say, hey, I'm leading with grace, and I'm being flexible, and I'm being patient, and I'm checking on the wellness of my staff and students, and knowing that I'm supported by district leadership. So that's where we are right now. And I am proud to be a school leader within Baltimore City Schools, because I think that we are really meeting the challenge at this time.
That's great. What can you tell us, if anything? There's so many unknowns about what's going to happen come fall.
Yes. So I don't know that I could tell you much, because there are so many unknowns, and because the information is steadily changing from day to day. And I know the question for all educators, for all students around the country right now is like, hey, when are we going back? Are we going back? And those are still pressing questions. I think that right now I try not to get caught up in figuring out the answer to those questions, and just focusing on making progress through what I'm experiencing now, and being open and flexible as I move throughout this closure and the experiences. It is all new. And so I'm just, on a day-to-day basis, I'm just thinking, okay, how can I do this better? Reflecting on my own practice and what the progress that we've made thus far, and like, how can I leverage that to move forward?
Well, we're going to keep Baltimore City Schools and you and Digital Harbor in our prayers too, as you figure all this out, because I think every school system around the world pretty much, I hear 75% of students around the world are out of school, out of their buildings now.
Mm-hmm.
So we will be keeping you in our prayers. And in light of that, going back to your students in particular, but your faculty as well, what would be some thoughts you have for our church, for our GraceCity youth, for all of us who deeply care about Digital Harbor? What are some thoughts about how we can best support your students, your faculty, you, because we're your partners on Sundays. We're your guests on Sundays. How can we best support you?
Yeah, so what I've seen to be successful, with my school community and other schools across the city, it's really when partners are willing to come in and provide or fill in the gap where there are basic needs. So like food and toiletries and, baby items and clothing. Those are things right now that folks need. And they needed it honestly prior to COVID, right? But now it's kind of amplified in a way that, I'm like, okay, I understand that this family needs this. Like, how can I get them these services and still protect my, myself and my staff as far as like social distancing and such. And so I get really excited about partners who are able to fill that gap in any way. And it doesn't have to be, large contributions or donations, but just, I'm always about serving one family at a time, one child at a time, and like really fitting their needs. And
Great.
so that's what I would offer up. And I'm excited about, any partner who is willing to support us in that work, because I recognize that we serve a diverse population at Digital Harbor High School. And I just want to make sure that every corner of that population, can come to us for a resource and we're able to provide that.
Well, we will reach out to you for some details about how we might, get needed supplies, needed resources to you and to your team. And so we'll reach out to do that and get some details about that, because I know there are folks standing by wanting to come alongside in more concrete ways.
Thank
So
you.
we'll do that. Absolutely. You talk about the population at Digital Harbor, the diverse population, and I know that uh, in the past there have been times where there's been tension of students as they come through the neighborhood on their way to school and with the neighborhood. And we love your students so much, and we want to, just in the last month, there's been so many real deep hurts in our country. And we know the names. Just even yesterday, George Floyd and Christian Cooper, and then just a few weeks ago when it came to light with Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor, and people of color being subjected to some of the worst um, things that our society might do. And so talk about your students and our neighborhoods in the city, and what are some ideas and thoughts and prayers you'd give to us on behalf of your students?
Yeah, so when you were talking about these folks who have tragically lost their lives and been targeted in a way that is just, incomprehensible, I constantly think, and that is one of the concerns that I have during COVID. Like, we are our students' lifeline, right? And so they come to school to socialize, to learn, to eat, to grow, to thrive. And so not having this space where I feel like I can protect them and my staff, we protect them. If they are out and being children or being teenagers or doing whatever they need to do at that time and being targeted is something that really scares me. And it creates an anxiety within me. Like, I just want my kids to be safe. I just want to be able to protect them. And I know that is, I'm one person. And so during COVID, I don't have the capabilities to just wrap my arms around all 1,200 of my students, but I would encourage neighbors and, folks within GraceCity to do exactly what you're doing, and speaking up and speaking against these actions and demanding answers from folks who, really, they're supposed to represent us. They're supposed to lead and support community. And so, like, demand that these folks are taking a stand and saying enough is enough. And I'll be honest, the reason why I'm in education is, I started as an English teacher, but it wasn't, I love literature. And I hope that educators don't cringe about this either, but it was more about the service to children and, the humanity of teaching than it was about reading To Kill a Mockingbird in its entirety. And so I've always led with that, and that is a passion for me. And so I just, I want it to stop. I don't want our Black boys and our brown boys to be fearful of walking in a community that they don't live in. Like, they have a right to be here. And so do I. And so that is something that on a daily basis, when we were in school, face to face, that is something that I imparted on children daily. Like, you belong here, you deserve to be here, you have a right to be here. But my goal was to equip them with the skills to be able to advocate for themselves in their community in a manner that is received at any table. And so that's the work that I'm committed to. As I told you before, my research is focused on that. And so I live and breathe supporting children who look exactly like me, who come from experiences similar to mine, and being able to help them thrive in a world that like has not always been kind to them, their mother, the grandmother, the grandfather. Like that's what I live to do. That's my work, and I believe that that is my calling.
Well, I so appreciate those words, and I want you to know that Grace City Church, we have your back in those passions and in those ambitions for your children. That in this generation we will have a new calling about how we treat one another. Um, Grace City folks, Grace City, don't forget, our mission is to reconcile people to God and to one another across every line that might divide us, and that is the calling of this generation. Um, so we want you to know that you can come to us, and we will stand with you and support you in all the ways that we possibly can, because we've got your back.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I really do. This is tough work, but I live for it. Like I'm ready to, partake in any challenge or face any challenge. And I just get excited about breaking barriers and meeting those challenges. Teaching is truly an act of social justice. And when I can join in partnership with folks who truly believe that and live that, that excites me because I know how that impacts my students.
Say a few more words about teaching is an act of social justice, because that hit my heart. I completely agree. We gather the teachers every year at Grace City to lay hands on them and commission them to go out and do what they do.
I was there in September.
Yeah, that's right. And I call you all heroes for what you do for those 8 hours a day, standing in the gap with children. And so say a little bit more about teaching as an act of social justice. I love that.
Yes, so I won't give it all to you because it's in my dissertation, but I wholeheartedly believe that teaching is an act of social justice. And so that came from my passion initially. I wanted to go to law school, but I had started an education program and I was like in this divide. Like I knew that I was an advocate. I knew that I was a fighter. I knew that I wanted to stand for justice. And so I was like, at the end of the day, as a classroom teacher, that's exactly what I'm doing. And so teaching allowed me to conjoin my passion for advocacy and learning and supporting children in a way that, like, for me, it's coming to fruition where I truly believe that teaching is an act of social justice. We are on the front lines. We are looking at, we are teaching what I call a manifestation of society's ills in a way. And so when you see children who don't necessarily have the means to cope or who have been marginalized in a way where they are not able to fight for themselves that makes sense to us as an adult or makes sense to society. Some folks are like, oh, this is not normal. Oh, something's wrong with this child. But what I see is exactly what I said, a manifestation of like what has been taken away or what has been strategically withheld from this child or their family. And so it's like, I want to break that barrier so this child can have an experience and be exposed to the things that they deserve. And so that's where that comes from. I hope that I communicated that in a way that is clear, but those are my thoughts.
Well, I'm hoping that your dissertation becomes a book one day, very soon, so that we can get it out to folks, because those words, that your commitment to those principles that's what can change this world in this generation. We talk at Grace City about a generational commitment, and we want you to know, Taiisha, that we are generationally committed to you and your children at Digital Harbor, to the children of Baltimore City. We're in the city to stay, and so we're in it with you. And I want to thank you again. It has been such a pleasure to talk with you today. Your words have changed my day for sure, and it's going to lift everyone up. So thank you again for being with us on Wednesday Word. We love you. We love your school. We got your back. And folks, Grace City family, friends, everybody watching today, share this out with people. These are important words for Baltimore City, for our students, for our faculty, for all the teachers, the heroes really of this time on the front lines. So we thank you for tuning in. Taiisha, once more, this is the way I shake hands now, probably forever, as I pat my heart to let you know you have my heart. So thank you for being with us. Thank you for tuning in to Wednesday Word, and we will see you very soon.
Thank you.